Well, hey everybody, welcome back to the Bill and Ray Show. I'm out in the torch shop. It's time to make another marble. Thanks for stopping by, you guys. Today I'm going to start off making a cane that maybe is kind of different than what I've done before. I had these ideas in my head middle of the night a few days ago, and then this morning in the shower I kind of focused in on what I'm going to do, so we'll see what happens here. Let's get into it. We've got various color laid out as usual, but to start off making this cane, the scale of things is a little uncertain in my mind, and I haven't done any practice session with this, so I think I'm going to try and go on a smaller scale. So I'm going to need something smaller than the factory rod. Get this down a little ways anyway. Because I'm going to paint this color onto a white rod. It's going to be the base. And I've got a aqua rod prepped, ready to go. I've got some Electrum. That's going to go on top of the aqua. At least that's my thinking. So I'm going to get into a section of white. See if we can warm this up without getting any pops and fizzles. So I was contemplating different ways. At one point I thought I was going to build this up on a clear rod, and then I thought, no, I'm going to go straight off a color. But stock rod is not very big in diameter to do kind of the design I want to do. So I'm not sure how much I can miniaturize my thoughts. So right now I'm just kind of letting this fall back on itself just a little bit. I'm trying to kind of preheat this white. It tends to have some little surface bubbly action. It will kind of settle down after heating up a bit. So I'm slightly condensing this back to make this a little thicker. This is star white. It's what I've used mostly for quite a few years. And generally, when you heat this up, you get these little surface bubbles, and then they'll settle down. So I'll see if I can kind of continue building up a little thicker. This is getting kind of wonky, out of control. So go ahead and tag a handle on here so it's not quite so chaotic looking. So in the marble that I'm going to construct today, I'm not going to use very much cane. So I want to make sure I make enough, but chances are I'm going to wind up making way more than I'm going to use, but that's okay. Okay. I'm going to create my little barrel here. I'll just kind of angle this down, let this draw out. So I'm thinking something like that is going to work. It's kind of prepped. It's nice and glossy on the surface. All right, now we've got jet black. Okay, we're going to come basically 180 on that. All right, then we're going to do aqua. Okay, and I do want to kind of keep these in. Okay, so now I've got this Electrum. I want to lay this on top of the aqua. That's my idea. Okay, I'm going to do a big flame here and try and cook some of this in. Okay, so get this melted in. Now comes kind of the fun part, hopefully. And that will be to get some clear on here. So we're going to come on top of our colors. Okay, this is going to be one of those rinse and repeat operations, building up clear. So as this clear melts in, it's going to squeeze those areas that don't have clear covering them. So in my mind, I originally considered this a box cane, but it might be more accurately a star cane. Let's see. I'll try and get these things melted in here evenly. Okay, we're going to keep building up some clear here. Actually, once I've got that much on there, I think I'll switch to a larger rod here. So I don't know, I just thought I'd try something a little different. I love making canes, and this idea kind of came to mind, and I don't think I've done this before, and I'm not thinking I've seen this done before. Something that might be more applicable to making a marini cane, making a pattern. A lot of steps where we have to get this pretty loosey-goosey to melt it in. Well, I think I'm getting towards what I had drawn out anyway. I'm not sure if this is quite getting the effect I want just yet. To get this to melt in. So I want those areas without the clear on it to push out. To the outside of this bundle. It's not transforming quite as quickly as I thought it would, but we'll see. got a little twist going here on this end, trying to sort of unwind that twist, but then I'm making other things twist. Okay, well, let's try adding some more clear. At some point here, we're just going to have to run with it and see what we get. So kind of heat the outside end. Focus on that. It'll kind of draw out a little bit. Easy smoothing out. Grab a handle and kind of shift to the other side. At some point here, I think I'm just going to lose this white rod. Let's pull some of this out. Doesn't really matter, but get a handle on this other end. So, still like debating, should I put some more clear on here? It's finally starting to get kind of the look I was hoping for. But maybe I can get away with doing some more clear here. You can see the area that the clear didn't hit is all the way up at the surface. So this is kind of submerging color that I put on the white and extending that white glass up to the surface. So we'll just go a little bit more. And I think this will be good. Then we'll pull this out, twist it up. So how's everybody doing out there? Hopefully you're well, your family's well. We're just out here in the torch shop to just try and get focused in on some glass. I'll let the rest of whatever's going on in life kind of fade away for a few minutes while we're out here. The glass kind of demands our attention. So I'm happy to devote my attention to this for a little bit. Appreciate everyone that's hanging out watching some of these videos, and hope these adventures are kind of interesting to some folks and give you some ideas or give you some appreciation for what all goes into this kind of work. But it's a process for me to kind of go through, kind of helps my mental health and so on, to have time with the flame. If you're into astrology, I'm an Aries, I'm a good fire sign. I've always liked playing with pyrotechnics and hot things, rocketry, both amateur model rocketry as well as I've been involved with some bigger rockets in my former careers. Okay, we're at a happy bundle stage to start a little bit of gentle twisting and pulling. Kind of elongate this. And I don't know, maybe to some people they'll look at this and say, oh yeah, that's common. But myself, I don't know when I've done a cane exactly like this. So I got to think about how small do I want this and how twisted do I want this, and you get going twisting and pulling, you just get into whatever it is, try and be consistent. If it's too out of control, come out of the fire, and bounce in and out of the fire if it's too radical. Oh, this should give me quite a bit of cane for this marble and more. So I'd be curious to see how this looks inside a Vortex marble. The Vortex effect automatically gives you some magnification. I'll be curious to see what the detail looks like here. So I wasn't too sure about different colors and stuff. I kind of wanted something fairly simple. I was originally thinking it was just going to be kind of black and white. I thought, well, it'd be kind of fun to put in some Electrum. But Electrum by itself is just kind of gray. So I'm not sure how much of that aqua is going to pick up as a backing to it, but yeah, look at that. So we're going to jump into a 19 millimeter clear rod. I've had this pop and spark a few times recently. So when you have a cut end, if you angle it away from you, maybe kind of down at an angle, the stuff that pops off tends to be in kind of a cone headed off the end. Of course, this time it won't do anything. But that's one way to sort of be a little safer when you're introducing glass that you're not too sure about if the end's going to shatter or do something crazy on you. Angle it away from you, downwards. That way anything that does pop off of there should land on your bench, and at least it won't land in your lap. But once we got past that kind of shocky phase, so cleaning off that cut edge is always going to be nasty. You want to get rid of that. Okay, kind of angle this up and let it condense and fall back a little bit. Once again, our sponsor today is Epicwater filters. We've got a link in the description below. You can go to their website and check things out. If you happen to order off the website, we will get a little commission out of the deal. So you can help support the channel and get an awesome product. If you're concerned about your water quality, it's kind of one of those things that, you know, they say you can live without air for a short time. You can live without water for a bit longer. But you do need water to keep your life going, and you need clean water to live a happy, healthy life. And unfortunately, a lot of our municipal water in particular is not too impressive. We're actually fortunate that we have private wells up here where I live, and our water source is pretty good. It's got some mineral issues to it, but neighbors in the area, they have a lot of concerns about arsenic in their water. At any rate, we've got a water filter in our refrigerator that we really enjoy. They make a great product. I encourage you to check it out. Okay, I'm building up a gather. And then I'm going to shape this into a cone. So this kind of gets into one of those, it seems like nothing's happening. I'm rotating at an even pace. Glass is melting. It's condensing back on the rod that I'm kind of feeding into the process. And this zone right in here is where you get some funky glass building up. It's the outside layer of the rod that starts kind of accumulating some glass. It's a little subpar. And it is hot, hot, hot when you dive in there with tweezers. So you want to make sure when you use tweezers you keep them wet. You need some water handy. And don't let them sit in the flame. If you got them in the flame to where they're glowing hot, you're way too long in the flame. I'm fairly abusive with my tweezers. I use them a lot. Some people pick glass with another glass stick. A lot of operations like this right here, I don't think that would work so well, so tweezers are a good way to go. And these are considered 7-inch stainless steel tweezers. You don't want plated, you don't want chrome plated ones, you want real stainless steel. And I occasionally, I grind these down, kind of redo the tips on occasion. Do that several times before I toss these and get a new pair. But they're not expensive. That's the bottom line. Okay, trying to angle up this end. Angling this down, letting it draw that tip, let it kind of fall out on its own. Yeah, I want kind of an elongated cone, not too sharp of an angle. For our next phase. So we don't want our base to be too hot, so it's moving around or causing trouble. We're going to jump right into using our cane that we made. Now again, I had several different ideas of how I was going to apply this. So let's see what happens here. Kind of stringy at the cutoff there. Condense that back down. So I'm trying to go 180 and do kind of a dividing down between here. Okay, now guess what the next one's going to be. It's going to try and divide those spots. This becomes a little simpler, just trying to follow down between the two runs that I did so far, and come out here, condense down this tip again. Do that one more time. Okay, that's all we can fit on there to have independent canes running down the interior. So we get to cook those in. So again, I want to just kind of let this take a little time. Let it all just naturally melt into place. It seems like it takes quite a while for things to start happening, and then they can kind of happen kind of quickly. Okay, we get this all melted in. Now I get to this point, there's going to be some kind of funky stuff going on there, so we'll pull that off. Alright, well, that's our so-called box cane inside there. We'll see how that looks. Meantime, we're going to move on to some blue-green frit. Really love this stuff. Turns out nothing like it looks like is frit. It's just a nice, pretty blue frit, but it'll turn into some ghosty little speckles in the background. And that's all we want, really, is speckles. So usually just one run around like that is sufficient. course, a lot of that is going to be hiding behind the cane, but that's the way it goes. This out of the way so I don't break that cane. Drop something on canes, they tend to break. So just letting that frit melt in on its own, do its own little, it kind of balls up and makes little spots. When it's pretty well down, then we can come in with the paddle here. So I'm kind of pushing different directions, trying to kind of sharpen that edge. Sharpen the tip. All right, before I go on to the next step, I'm going to gold fume this. I appreciate people are freaking out at the price of gold, but here's such a teeny tiny little speck of gold on this rod. I used cobalt glass on the end to hold the gold, and just a tiny bit of it is going to go onto this piece. So try and come into these, and there went my little speck of gold. Let's try that again. I'll retrieve that. Not to worry. I tried to come in here slow. Now this one, I think my piece of gold is submerged, kind of hiding in there a little bit. So you angle this down and that gold is heavier, so it'll want to stick out. Okay, I think my base piece might be a little bit on the hot side to receive this gold. I think we're starting to build it up. Sometimes fuming goes really fast, and sometimes it kind of takes a minute. I'm trying to make sure I got a good layer on this piece, and I'll very gently roll that as it's cooling. Try and keep that little spot of gold sticking up. Okay, and my other little nugget here. Put that somewhere safe where I'll grab it later. Okay, we've got gold fume on there. Now we're going to do some black backing. And I've noticed in some of my recent marble adventures, I haven't really been doing that good of a job on this step here. So I'm going to try and pay a little bit more attention. So I'm leaving a little space in this run. I'm going to tie down my other piece here. So we get one full run on here. We'll trap this gold. Now what I did before is I sort of just jumped into doing the next in-between run, and I realized that that was not really the best technique. So I want to melt that stuff in before I move on to the next layer. And if that burns out some of the gold in between there, then that's okay. So the issue I was having is I was trapping a little bit of air, getting some little hairline trap effects that not what I'm really wanting to do. So by melting this in better, in the next run at this, won't trap any air, hopefully. The downside is it's a little harder to see where that spot is that I need to add backing color. This may provide a spiral gold fume effect in the background. I'm hoping it will. Again, just kind of trying to sharpen that edge on the wide side and sharpen this point. I may not even notice on this where I have a bit of two different angles. I did a sharper angle on the end. That's okay. You can mess around with angles like that. In the finished piece, you can't really tell what happened. Okay, we're going to do some silver on top of this black. Smoking. Then we'll start doing the fill-in. At least my light hasn't been flickering when I turned it on. It was kind of, last couple times, one of my lights has been kind of flickering. I was like, oh great, that'll add some interest to the video. So I kind of use this little stitching effect to close in clear. And keep that flame focused on the clear rod where it needs to melt, and a little bit flashing onto the base. A lot of glass work to me is just kind of hanging out, being one with the glass. Just it has its own rhythm and timing, some of which takes some patience. You know, things don't happen instantaneously, but some operations are kind of quick, and it's kind of a one-shot deal where you have one chance to do that step. And even like this, I mean, this is a combination of 100 little steps, but each one is important. Yeah, well, hopefully this will be an interesting marble. We have some kind of different effects going on. May not have accomplished quite what I thought in my simplistic little cartoon drawings, but you got to start somewhere. And doing this, then I'll learn from this one what happened and how it looks in the finished piece. And I might get excited and decide to do more of that sort of thing, or I might look at it and say, yeah, forget that idea. That was a bad idea. There's kind of no such thing as bad ideas. They're just how you want to use it. And they just only be applicable to certain applications that make sense. grab my other clear rod that I kind of stack pieces together. And we'll start off by, if I can find my foot pedal. What's going on here? It's turned around or something. My foot switch moves around. So we'll heat up this edge. Kind of squeeze it together. And then we'll come out to this tip end. Trying to let that color stay sticking out the end. Just like in the cane, when color is sticking out from the clear, it'll stay separated. It'll move the clear glass and try and avoid having them mix, having the clear run over. So I saw a bubble here. I don't know if it's worth screwing around with. It went. Just kind of squeeze it and get it to come up to the surface. That wasn't too hard. Okay, more clear. We're just trying to build up mass here, so there's various ways of doing it. At this point, whatever geometry you use to add glass won't have much effect. It's kind of rocking back and forth here in the flame to try and get that clear to melt ASAP. See if I can juggle all this and get some coffee here. My mug with a bunch of marble images from the past. One of our many designs and imagery that you can find in our kind of little shopping area down below the video for mugs and t-shirts and such. Help out the channel and buy some merch. Just letting this form ball up on its own. Excuse me. You can do a little rolling around to kind of encourage it to shape up, but it's mostly just going to do it on its own. And this is where the glass starts getting pretty toasty. It's throwing off a lot of heat. You'll see that little speck of the color is still sticking out the end. So what happens if you let the glass cover up that tip, you'll start building up more and more clear glass on the very end, and you'll lose your depth, the maximum depth you can get out of it. Okay, when it's kind of getting soupy, we can just rest this in the marble mold. Okay, now we're going to heat the rod at the lens side of things. I'm going to thicken this up. And it starts getting pretty wobbly. Okay, get that built up just a little bit. Now, I need to let this settle down. So put this on our little makeshift roller here, our little tin can roller. It's just a soup can with a couple dents made in the edges. And I filled it up with some metal scrap so it's got bunch of weight so it doesn't go anywhere. But if you have enough rod, it'll balance at some point, so you can let it sit there temporarily. And it's surprising, just bending over that, because the top of the soup can's got a little rolled edge to it. Bend those over, you get perfectly soft rolling edges. So the contact points are very small. Looks pretty simple. Anyway, that's one of my little toys that I've had for many, many years. Okay, we're going on to the backside color. We've got jet black to start with. Okay, then I kind of break away from that first line and give some space for 2 more lines. I generally just use three different colors, 3 different lines when I do this step. But you could use just 2. You could use, sometimes I layer like a ruby on top of a silver strike or something like that, and it would be like a 4th color. And then we're going to do some Opaque Aqua. And this particular piece of what do you call this? A stringer. Lots of words. It's kind of thin on the end there, so I was kind of pushing it in. So the stringers, you can always kind of adjust a little bit for the fact if they're kind of thicker than you want, you can drag them, kind of draw them out as you're putting them down. And if it's kind of thin, you can kind of go a little slower and kind of push it in like you're getting it to condense up on the fly. But you got to be careful torquing stringers around; they tend to break. Okay, and something, I don't know, it's been a long time since I used some slime, so with old-fashioned tag slime. And this was kind of a fatter stringer. I wanted to lay down a bit more of this glass, so I left a good amount of space there, and I can push in a fairly thick band of slime. But because of all the heat cycling and manipulations that this backside gets, I'm not sure how this slime is going to survive and what it will look like in the finished piece out of the kiln, but thought I'd give it a go. It's been so long since I think I've used it on the back. In a long time. I probably didn't like the way it looked, so that's why I haven't used it in a long time. Melting these lines in can seem like it takes a lot, or that I'm kind of going farther with this than I need to, but it's kind of important, I think, to get the color really laid down, totally fused. Okay, once again, give this a moment. Okay. So trying to get the right torch setting for this step, get the right distance, positioning out away from the torch, and get the right speed. There's a lot of little subtle factors going into making this work or be disastrous. We'll come to this back side. Pause here a moment. This glass hot. Okay, come back to our end point, our vortex point. And we'll just kind of punch that very tip in without pushing too hard to mess up the interior. This one worked quite nicely. Okay, we'll drop this in the marble mold and just kind of gently try and smooth it up a little bit. Usually I have these plenties prepped, but I guess I missed that step today. Okay, attach plenty to somewhere close to the tip. Okay, start condensing the lens. I'll get my face back away from the flame and the heat. Get this kind of at an incline and kind of facing into the flame. You can see how that perimeter, diameter, circumference, whatever you want to call it, transition between the color and the clear is expanded out quite a bit in this last little stretch. keep piling up the glass here, and need as much clear glass as I've got on the other side of colored material. Okay, that looks pretty good. Yeah. Okay, then we'll kind of melt back this point. Okay, this is the rip and tear section. So let this kind of soak in the flame. Keep the tweezers good and wet until I'm ready to pull it, drop down out of the fire. Come back up into the fire to flame cut that little tail. So I'm kind of tearing right along the edge of the color to do a sweep, clean up that edge. And back around here to the beginning. I'm going to pull this out a little more gently, try and avoid putting that too hard with the flame and getting it to boil up. This is a little bit more basic skimming, laying your tweezers kind of flat to the glass. Alright, now change angles. I use this roller can as an armrest. Okay, that's about all that. Again, we get this kind of angled up. And kind of push that heat inside the interior of the marble. I'll hit the Elm over here to square things up. I'll keep things on a, moving from a barrel to a sphere. You don't want a raggedy shape going on. Multitask here. I don't want to blow that up there. Remember, I got a little chunk of gold sitting out there. Okay, well, messing around there, I got this a little wibbly wobbly. So we'll go into the oversized marble mold and come back on the Elm arbor, square things up. So this is just a game of incremental shifts in the geometry to get this into a perfectly round sphere. Come down into the 2-inch mold. Little glowing balls of fire there on the end. Seem to have one port on that Red Max that's a little deficient. I should try and zoom in on that, see if maybe something I can just open up a little bit. Been kind of ignoring it for a long time. Okay, well once we've got kind of this front lens kind of squished into shape, time to transfer punties and start working on the other side. Now that black jet, by the time it got watered down and stretched out, it's not doing much. Wish I had a really intense black and soft glass. They came out with an intense black quite a long time ago, and it was just perfect for me, the type of work I was doing at the time. I loved that super intense black, even if you pulled it into a little stringer. And of course in the soft glass world I was just doing beads and not doing any kind of blown out work, so it would have its limits in that regard, but I do wish there was such a thing as a truly opaque, intense black. Those blacks are just a mix of dark blue and other stuff trying to muddy it up. Okay, now we're on to the color side. See if we can get it to transform. So that background of the blue-green frit and the gold fuming is going to be really striking in this one. Okay, again, just kind of angling up with the piece and trying to let it kind of fall back on itself. Trying to get some natural shaping going on. And we can use some fast rotation to try and influence that reshaping. Okay, we're getting into a pretty extreme heat base here. Touch down in our oversized mold first. We're getting there. It may not look like much, but it's slowly but surely. Okay, the whole thing's getting kind of wonky shape, so we'll go into our mold here, kind of come in flat. Give it a little bit of pressure, try and coax these two halves together. It may seem counterintuitive to hang it straight down. Sometimes it can kind of help keep things centered, and the glass is really moving all that easily. It'll flow back the other direction easily as well. So this is sort of this exercising process of going one direction and then the other. Oh, there goes my flickering light. I don't know if the camera's going to pick it up. Okay, now we're going to come all the way up on this, I think. And move through that transition at that very end sticking out. Wow, we're lots closer. So then we start going into the marble mold and kind of faster, a little pass, a little bit of pressure, jump back to the fire. So we don't want to lose too much heat in our base. So the less time you spend in the marble mold, the more heat you retain, but you want to keep moving things little by little. It's coming together. So at some point you get pretty close, and then you actually do want to cool down the whole marble, cool down the core. So the core is basically done. So you don't want it to keep messing around. I'm looking at reflections, and actually that area that needs to come together looks pretty decent. So I'm going to come back into the fire And we're going to just do some flame polishing basically at this point, so we're just going to kind of sit in the flame, some slow rotations, try and gloss over all the little minor boo-boos there. And then you get out of the fire and leave it alone. Just keep rotating. We're getting there. Alrighty, well, our slime is probably going to have some different looks from one point from the back side to the edge. So every punty transfer, I'm paying attention to the new punty and letting the old punty kind of run around crazy until it softens up and we can cut it loose. And we want to be very careful not to bump things at this point. We need to get rid of this glass. We need to remove any traces of the punty rod because it's going to be a little different glass. You're going to be able to see that optical goof up there. So as you heat this up, as it gets up to a glowing hot, if you see a remaining little ring or something that is visible there at the tip, you want to make sure you dig that out. So right now that very tip is kind of flat. So try and get this good and hot. Come into our marble mold, touch down on the back side. Spin very gently. Come up to the front. So by raising the angle, it's riding just on the rim of the marble mold here. So by coming up with the punty, you're changing where that edge is hitting. That actually looks pretty good. Do one fast spin in the marble mold. Feels nice and smooth. Looks good in the reflections. So when you're doing these steps here of kind of flame polishing that clear, you don't want to sit in there too long the way the glass starts moving and waving around. And then you need to let it cool down to make sure it's good and firm. And that process of heating and cooling like that will actually smooth out that surface. . pretty decent. Let's do another intense heat. Slow rotations, let that heat soak in. Speed up and get out of the fire. Keep rolling. That should do it. Just need to break this loose and polish the punty mark, and then we can get her in the kiln. Yeah, I don't know. Kind of accomplished what I hoped to do. The cane, definitely I could see some different colors to use, different things that might make it a little bit more vibrant. Okay, get our tweezers wet. Come down here to the marble mold and do my holder. I polished that little spot. Kind of bounce around, look at the reflection until you're satisfied that the reflection is pretty stable on that end. Looks good. Awesome. Thank you guys for hanging out. Hope you found something interesting in this video, if you're still here. Got a lot of links in the description below. We've got the colors that I use and links to other sites and other things we do. Our Etsy store is the first thing up on there. One of our Etsy stores. Okay, into the kiln we go. So we're all done for today's marble adventure. Now we get to go process some video, so you all can enjoy this. So take care of yourselves, please. Take care of those around you. And as always, enjoy life. Have a good day. See you on another adventure, another day. Check it out.